right, guys, sorry we're a little late today. As always, we have a little bit of technical difficulty. Dr. Pompa and our executive team have been traveling, so there's David and Phil's over here. But we always make time for what's important, and that's sharing truth. And Dr. Pompa has a really great topic today. As a matter of fact, we just released an article. Let me move this shirt over so I feel a little more connected. Looking good. All right, there's the pause.
There's this like odd delay right now, so I can't watch the screen.
So you're going to see a little bit of delay, you know, because the internet connection is slow here. But there's this topic, and it's an epidemic. You know, there's multiple of them out there. But just recently, there's been an onslaught of patients, Dr. Pompa, that's been dealing with Parkinson's, and a lot of that connection has come from one thing. We'd like to share that one thing with you today, and we just released an article on that one thing. So, Dr. Pompa, let's get into the detrimental effects of diet soda on the brain, or we like to say is
your brain on diet soda.
Your brain on diet soda. Frying it in a pan. You know, your brain on drugs. Remember that? This is the egg.
I remember years ago. I kind of have to start with the story because years ago I had a patient. This was back in my practice in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Wexford, and she was diagnosed with MS. And I had just got done reading an article recently around that time about how people with MS, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases could be misdiagnosed, if you will. And the first question is always to ask if they've ever drank a lot of diet soda, utilized a lot of diet products in their life. And, you know, because when you take those away, many of these people, that's this first step, they actually get better. And so this girl came in, and she was severely down the road with MS. And having just read that article, I said to her, you know, have you utilized a lot of aspartame in your day or drank diet soda? And as it turned out, she was in fact addicted to diet soda and other products too. And by the way, we'll talk about why it's so addictive. So I tell her, I don't know if I shared the article with her, it was a while ago, but the bottom line is she gets off of the diet soda.
Right.
And, you know, she literally was able to start walking again. Her life changed. She was able to get off all the medications. I mean, her life changed. And I think there was some damage that was still there. However, you know, life with that diagnosis ended. So as of recent, there's been a lot of talk on the internet, some things coming out about Michael J. Fox. And as we know, he was one of the youngest people to be diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And, you know, really sad story. But Michael J. Fox also did ads for Pepsi Cola. And well, more specifically, the diet soda. And as it's said in this article, is that Michael J. Fox was drinking a lot of diet soda, not just on doing the commercials, but in his private life, and so consuming a lot of diet soda. Now, in the article too, they did have they indicated that heavy metals are also attributed to this condition, and there's been some videos circulating online where Michael J. Fox laughing in some of his movies. You could see his mouth full of amalgam fillings, which is releasing mercury into the brain, which is also a known cause of Parkinson's. But as I always say, it's never one stressor, right? It's never one. It's a perfect storm. And of course, Michael J. Fox ingesting the diet sodas, getting addicted to the diet sodas. Obviously now there's all this research of how aspartame is linked to Parkinson's and other neurodegenerative diseases. And as we know in the article, it even talked about how it drives something called NMDA, which is simply this brain chemical, if you will, that drives this inflammation in the brain. We know that aspartame also blunts dopamine receptors. And what that means is we know that Parkinson's related to this chemical that the brain needs called dopamine. When it blunts these receptors, now the dopamine gets messed up. So the brain starts to form these plaques and this inflammation, etc. So, I mean, the research has been there for years, obviously. And Michael J. Fox's foundation, I think this is one of the points in the article, is that this has been brought to the foundation's attention, that this link of diet soda, and Michael J. Fox drinking a lot of diet soda and driving his Parkinson's. But it's really just, been pushed aside. I think the sad part is a lot of the money that's gone into the foundation are companies who utilize aspartame, or at least make products with aspartame in it and other petrochemicals, etc. And the article goes on. But, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, when you're, next time you're on an airplane, just look around and you hear people making their orders. I think more people order diet soda today than anything else.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think
in my personality, I actually say something. Do you know that research is actually you're gonna gain weight when you drink diet soda?
Yeah, well, that's actually another great topic, right? I mean, because you know, Warren, you'd point out, yeah, you're going to gain weight. If you ask them, the answer is always like, well, I like it more.
Yeah, and this is a big controversy for me because if you're watching this, you're like, well, I cannot get off my diet soda. You're literally addicted. But when you first try it, you're like, it's not that good. You know? And I'm like, Mom,
there's that odd aftertaste.
Yeah, Mom,
right?
How can you drink this? My mom, I'm from Pittsburgh. Mom, you know, why do you like diet soda? It tastes like, you know, crap. She's like, I love it, you know. And then I'll actually talk to people, and they'll verbally say to me, there's no way you can get rid of my diet soda. So there's a diet soda right there, but you can't put the name on there.
I was just drinking this.
No, you weren't. You can't show it.
Like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's a diet soda in this house.
Not mine.
It's Phil's.
It's not mine.
But it always blows my mind, Dr. Pompa, why is it so addictive? Because, I know it has to do something with the dopamine effect or something, but they get addicted to this stuff, and they literally, it's like, you know, I don't know how to say it, but we would do it more in a layman's term. It's like crack. You know, they just do not want to get off of it. And it becomes a major sticking point, even in some of the, you know, the consults.
Yeah, I mean, aspartame there's certain amino acids that make up aspartame. And by the way, that's one of the arguments. It's 3 amino acids. You know, how could it be so bad? But aspartate, or you know, something that maybe our viewing audience is more familiar with, MSG. Well, these things are excitotoxins that excite this part of our brain. And these really, they're called glutamate receptors.
But I like my brain excited. Shouldn't that be good?
That's the whole point of the brain on drugs, right? Or the brain on, in this case, diet soda, is it excites these things. And when it excites them, that's the point of an excitotoxin. So food companies put these clever chemicals into foods, and it literally makes us go, wow, the flavor here is amazing. However, the problem with that is when you eat broccoli or something next time, it's like, you know, after a while, broccoli doesn't taste any good. That's why kids today are addicted to processed foods with these chemicals, because they're excitotoxins. They get our brain to love the foods. There's these pleasure centers in the brain, and it stimulates those pleasure centers, just like a drug does, right? I mean, that's why people get addicted to Phil Kaplan coming in. So, and they get addicted to those drugs because they stimulate the pleasure receptors. However, these things also do the same thing. So you must have something to say.
We have 2 puppies in the room.
I have a question. I have a question for you. I have a comment.
Thank you.
I have a comment. My comment is, what do they add in the diet soda to the aspartame? In most cases, caffeine. So now you have the double addiction, right?
Right.
You're securing the addictive property with another addictive substance.
Absolutely.
So my question for you is, when you had this woman in Pittsburgh, did she really have MS, or was she simply misdiagnosed? When you look at that, it's the diagnosis is based on symptoms, and the symptoms go away. Did that person really have the disease, or were they misdiagnosed?
Yeah, I would say misdiagnosed, right? But ultimately, though, what is the diagnosis? You know, meaning, we see certain plaques in the brain, we see a certain set of symptoms, and we put a label on that. So I guess that it's called MS when we don't know what caused it, right?
Well, I'm asking this from the perspective of somebody who was misdiagnosed with Parkinson's. I don't have Parkinson's. So think about, if you can imagine, sitting across the table from a doctor who says, you have Parkinson's. There was no question. It wasn't Phil, you might have Parkinson's. You have symptoms that replicate Parkinson's.
Well, tell a little bit of that story. I mean, because, you know, there's so many people watching this.
Yeah, absolutely. Join the conversation.
You know, there's so many people watching this who have a certain set of symptoms and who've been given a diagnosis, Phil.
Come on in.
So, you know, and I'm always saying, hey, that's just a word. You know, you have fibromyalgia. Here's the classic one, right? You have cellulitis. My God, I have cellulitis. Well, it's inflammation of cells. It means basically we have no idea what's going on. You have fibromyalgia. Well, you have pain everywhere. We have no idea, so you throw a word fibromyalgia. When you had a certain set of symptoms, things going on, they gave you a diagnosis of Parkinson's. Tell that.
Well, at the time, I didn't know much about mold. You know, I'd become an accidental expert, as you have, and you have because we've been through it. So I was just getting crazy symptoms, and by the time I went to, I'm not going to say the name of the hospital, but a major hospital, and I sat with neurology. They put me through 3 days of testing. I was actually excited to speak to the head of neurology because I was sure he was going to cure me. Whatever it was, he was going to cure me. I was stuttering. I could barely form words, and I had really bad tremors. I would sit on my hands. I couldn't even pick up a glass off of the table. But I believe that whatever it is, he's going to identify it. And without looking at me, he was looking at his computer, he said, "I'll feel you have Parkinson's." And I guess a look came over my face that when he looked at me, he was kind of taken by it. He puts his hand on my forearm and he goes, "Don't worry, there are medications. You can have a good quality of life for many years." So what strikes me is, had I started taking, I left with the prescriptions, but I never filled them. Had I left with those prescriptions and actually filled them and taken the medications, I would today believe I have Parkinson's.
Absolutely.
So you have to wonder how many times people are misdiagnosed. You know how many times in a row, you know how many times you examine my amalgams? Yeah, don't I?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think unfortunately that happens a lot today with many conditions. Right? I mean, what is really the cause of fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue? Oh, you have chronic fatigue. They walk away with a lifetime diagnosis.
Right.
Instead of asking the question, what caused this set of symptoms? Remember,
Right.
Symptoms are simply a warning. Our body's telling us, hey, there's something wrong, right? You know, so, but what caused it? It's never asked today in medicine.
Right.
You know, what
and
caused
if Michael J. Fox could make a list of his symptoms and then go through a checklist and go, don't have this one anymore, don't have this one anymore, then who cares if he has the Parkinson's label? In other words, all it is I think the way the medical system operates is they did their job when they can stamp on your forehead, this is what you have.
And then properly give you the concoctions that go along with to minimize those symptoms, and therefore, and you'll have it for life. You'll take this for life.
That's the game they play.
And they did their job. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that
with the right heart.
That's a system that's broken, you know, and the doctor is doing their job in it, and they have some have a satisfaction in that moving on. But I think more and more doctors today are very frustrated within that system. At least we're seeing that, and they want out because it's a
perfect
list of
system.
symptoms.
It is a perfect system for both ends. It is a perfect system for chemical companies and a perfect system for drug companies. Because as they invent new compounds that they can put in foods that can cause sets of symptoms that could be diagnosed, the drug companies make money. And that's kind of how the machine works. You've heard the term bliss point?
No.
In the food industry, they have to find the right amount of sweetener to get to the point of bliss.
Yeah.
Now, when you go beyond it, then the person gets sick of the food. So if you ever eat something that's just too sweet,
Yeah.
So they spend a lot of time and money saying, how do we get to that bliss point? If they're not going to use sugar, the question then becomes, how do we create synthetically in the brain that same response as if we're hitting the bliss point with sugar?
Right.
So the chemical addiction is not an accident. It's exactly what they're trying to do, knowing that when the symptoms show up, the drug companies will make a fortune. So it's a beautiful system on both ends.
You know, it's amazing to me that how many people are just unwilling to dig for cause. We call those people 3%ers who want to dig for cause. It's not okay with them to live their life in effect like 97%ers. 97% of the population lives their life in effect. They'd never say, you know, why is my life not the way I want it? You know, people that live from cause go, dang it, what am I doing that my life's not the way I want it, right? They live the life of cause. If I get a certain set of symptoms, I'm immediately looking for, you know, what is the reason why? Cause and effect. How do we avoid it? That whole system today has dumbed people down to live their life in effect and be okay with taking a medication for the rest of their life. And I mean, I would argue that there's conditions that need to be the case, right? You know, but most often, it's not the case. There's a reason. You remove the cause, the body does the healing. And our system has I think you get blank stares today when you go to your doctor and you say, well, gosh, doctor, what can I do, you know, to start?
Oh, you do. You get, because I've done it. You get the tilt of the head.
Yeah.
And then momentary pause, and then you just go back on their little clipboard typing in the computer. They don't even address it because they don't know how. It's not in their body.
It's not. You know, did you guys watch the show? And anyone out there watch the show on Michael J. Fox did a show on happiness, and he went to Tibet, which is on my bucket list for the reason why these people live the longest. And there's a community there that's considered the happiest people on earth. So not only do we have people living really long lives, but the happiest people on earth. And so Michael J. Fox did a whole special. Did you see that special? Ah, bummer. You know, I thought it was fantastic.
I'm sure it's on YouTube.
I thought Michael J. Fox did a great job. But the interesting thing that probably went over most people's head was that he said, you know, I haven't even had to take my medication since I've been here. My symptoms have virtually disappeared. Okay, so when I heard that, I said, so surely Michael J. Fox moved to Tibet. Wouldn't you? I would. I would have been like, wait a minute. There's something here that's very special. There's something here, not just being around happy people, that may have been part of the ingredient. I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? We know that the mind can affect the cell, but there was something else, whether it was elevation, something did something very magical, you know, cause and effect. He went back into his life and back into the medications and back home.
Probably,
I was stunned by that.
He probably wasn't wearing cologne. He probably wasn't drinking diet soda. You know, he probably wasn't eating excitatory chemicals.
I immediately started realizing
it's like
free environment. Yeah. See, because everything's about stress. You know, when we look at how the body heals, we can minimize the stressors, whether it be chemical, physical, or emotional, enough, the body can start to heal. You know, it's the bucket of stress. You know, I say when your bucket overflows, that's your bucket of stress. You know, meaning that, you know, all your chemicals that you bioaccumulated drive the same stress reaction as when you're emotionally stressed because of something.
And I believe
anger, these things, right? I mean, everything in our life, it accumulates in this bucket, and then your body doesn't adapt it anymore, and then boom, it overflows, and now you're in a state of not adapting. As soon as your body starts not adapting, now you're in trouble, because now you're forming disease, whether it's cancer, heart disease, whatever your genetic weaknesses are. Those things are getting better.
And would you agree that recovery, which includes things like enjoyment, now you could handle more because you're better on the other end.
No doubt about it.
And you know, I will bet that there are people who will now come out with Tibet water, Tibet bread, Tibet berries, because that's what they do. Michael J. Fox went to Tibet and he didn't have symptoms. Oh, sorry about that.
We actually have an inroad there in Tibet. Just kidding.
No, but you've seen that with the Hunza Valley. Have you ever seen that?
The
Hunza water purifiers. 50 years.
Right.
What's in the water?
I'll tell you something interesting about Hunza, just to take a little step to the side. They gauge their age based on life experience, not. If you leave the Hunza and come back, you've aged 15 years because you're wiser. So when people are going there and they're saying, I'm 120, the people take their pick and the money. But that 120-year-old is probably really fit. But a great marketing point, because they can go, here's the reasons people live so long, right?
Because how they're calling what age, right? I mean, you know.
Yeah, and they go and they live because they eat these berries. They live that way because they drink that water, right?
But meanwhile, they're asking people in the culture, so how old are you? Well, I'm 90 years old. Oh my gosh, I mean, in their culture, he is 90 years old.
And they've also learned that the older they say they are, the more money people give them, you know? Oh, look, he's 150. Let's give them.
And they're more interested. Right. So those that have great significance and have a love language of significance, they, you know, they're getting significance. Right. You know, every time I say I'm really old, I get all this attention.
And they don't get cancer. Right. They don't get cancer, and they don't die of heart disease. But they die of things like dysentery.
Sure.
So it's all a different culture. But I love what you said. It's so true that when Michael J. Fox goes to Tibet, rather than looking for what is in Tibet that has made him better, what has he stepped away from that has allowed him to recover, right?
And the same thing happened to me. Just, I'm a Michael J. Fox when I went to Africa. Almost the sickest time of my life when I was really challenged. I didn't sleep through the night ever, you know, at this point. I was chronic anxiety, low energy, couldn't adapt to stress. Mm-hmm. And I slept like a baby the whole time I was there. Yeah. And I mean, I slept long, 12 hours. Like, it didn't, I mean, bombs drop off, I wouldn't have woken up. I felt amazing. Most of my symptoms were gone. I'm staying with the family. What's the name of the family? I can't remember. But anyway, just this beautiful family, and it was open air, big, thick concrete walls with open air windows, and no chemical smells. They grew their own food, organic, no chemicals, nothing. And I slept like a baby. And somehow, the help, you know, at the place would sneak in. I wouldn't even hear them, and I'd have this rooibos tea and lemon.
I said the same.
Yeah, I'm like, how did they sneak in?
They got into your room, and you wake up, and then there's like hot tea.
Yeah.
Hot tea. That means they came in here.
So, but even my mind when I was there at the time, I knew it was a lack of chemicals. But I started drinking rooibos because maybe it was a tea is what made me feel it. And I brought baobab fruit home. Probably shouldn't say that because that was probably illegal to bring baobab fruit home. I was eating it. Of course, I moved back home, or come back home from the trip, and I'm all back to not sleeping.
But actually,
again.
we did discover something, and if we
don't give away.
We'll talk about baobab fruit in a minute because I think it's a story that I think it'll interest most of you. But I think we've hit on something really important here because there's this concept of people from the area of Silicon Valley, San Francisco. There's a lot of big business there. People who are living life high, fast, and doing a lot of things. They go into the mountains, and there's a group who takes these CEOs in these groups of really high-functioning people at that level in the business world into the mountains, and they create the most amazing ideas. They feel amazing. They can't. I mean, this is how tree hugging started, right? I mean, these people go in the woods. And it's like, my gosh, it's these trees, and it must be these trees. Right. Remember the jerk when it was like it was the cans? The cans were exploding. He thought it was the cans. But it was a guy shooting at him. But so but the trees are giving off. I mean, they're giving off a certain energy, right? They're giving off certain ions. The air is different. Today we have 4 massive things happening, right? We have chemical stress like no time ever,
including EMFs and some of the.
Well, I'm getting that. Yeah, that chemical stress. We have the emotional stressors today because life is fast. We have I'm missing one, the emotional stress, the chemical, the emotional, the physical stressors. Sitting in offices is an amazing physical stress with a lack of good physical stress. And now we have something, and it's the electro waves. It's the electromagnetic frequencies that really don't fall into the chemical world. They don't fall into the physical world, and they don't fall into the emotional world. We have a new stressor. So you take these people out of the city, out of these buildings that have so much electromagnetic frequency. It's a stressor to your cell. And you take them out of that environment of this stress, and magic happens. And then you can start to do some basic detox with them, and remove some of that stress. Their bucket empties, and they go, man, their body just starts going into that adaptation mode again. Now they're adapting, and they feel well again.
So these are people sitting in a chair, allowing their body to deteriorate, experiencing more and more physical stress as their head becomes heavier, and a greater stress on their body.
Absolutely. It's a negative physical stress.
They are inhaling all of the flame retardants that are used in their computers that are coming out the exhaust.
Their whole environment, their HVAC, there's chemicals around them. Flame retardants, bromines, cleaners. I mean, you have chemical environment.
And on top of that now, there's the invisible, what we can't see, which is what we call the Wi-Fi, which is everywhere.
Right? Let me tell you a story about that. And this is somebody who I've never really, going through my sickness, I didn't hit the point where I noticed EMF, right? It's something that would really set me off. And a lot of my clients, cannot tolerate keeping your refrigerator, for example, because there's an electric frequency there, right? That's how bad they get. Well, we were in a new car that has the chip that you can put in and get internet in your car, which sounds like a really cool idea, right?
Yeah,
so,
kids can get on.
Yeah, so I was there. My son was driving, my 16-year-old son. Okay, there's a little stress added. And my other 2 little ones were in the back, and I was in the passenger seat. And they wanted to continue playing some game. So my son Daniel said, "Oh, I can turn the internet on." So turned the internet on, put the chip in. Within moments, I felt something. But maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I kind of just ignored it. Thinking in my mind, wow, that happened just when he put that on. I didn't say anything. My 16-year-old, within 5 minutes, says, "I feel really weird all of a sudden. I think it's that thing." He felt the exact same. He says, "I feel like head pressure." And he described the exact same symptoms that I said. My little ones, when they were back, were just kind of, they were clueless. I don't know if it was because we were in the front or they were younger. Their bucket was bigger than Daniel and I don't know. But anyway, so
really odd that was.
Daniel was immediately said, let's turn that thing off. Turned it off. And immediately we both felt this, go away. Now, we both were left, though, with a certain set of symptoms. It took me a couple hours before I felt normal again. Daniel was normal within about a half an hour.
What kind of brain fog?
Yeah, brain fog. We both were just in a funk. I mean, that's the only way we could describe it. It happened to me again. If you have the hotspot thing, right, and you're near the phone, my hotspot was on, and
Don't point that thing
I
at me.
put the thing while hotspot was on, and I had the phone next to my ear, and I got that same, much more mild, so the signal must not have been.
And you didn't know that was on.
I didn't know it was on. And I was like, gosh, I have those feelings again. I like literally started like looking for electron because I identified the feelings, and I turned it off. So, I mean, the point is this. You're sick, you don't feel well, you have a certain set of symptoms, you don't have the energy you used to have. Ultimately, your body's not adapting. You know, I believe, I mean, we have an innate intelligence within our body that when your body is adapting, it can heal, and it will heal. Now, there's a limitation to matter, you know, meaning that, you know, your body we can't expect, what's the analogy I'm looking for? I had a really good one in my mind, but there's a limitation to what your body is able to do. There's a limitation to the matter in your cell. You know, if I smash my hand with a hammer, you know, there's only so much healing, even if I had no interference, perfect, absolutely, there's still going to be permanent damage. There's a limitation to matter because we are, you know, this is not divine.
So you're telling me I'll never try to be 6 feet tall?
There's a limitation to your matter, but limitations. Yeah, but the point is if your body is able to adapt, your body can heal. You know, but what's keeping it from adapting? And I think that's the question we all should ask ourselves if you want to go to the next level. Even if you feel healthy watching this, I'm a healthy guy. I want to be healthier. I want to perform better. Everything about physical performance, Phil, is about adaptation. Good trainers are always looking at their clients and saying, how can we get you to adapt? Because adaptation creates
Good trainers,
strength.
not most trainers.
I said
That's a
good.
distinction.
I did.
Yes, you're right.
How can we get you to adapt? And I was saying the other day about Lance Armstrong, and he put massive time into training hard, stressing the body at its limit, and then most of his time into resting, adapting. You know, really, that creates the strength. You know
What's funny? When people hear Lance Armstrong as a reference, they pay attention, right? Because they go, oh, whatever he's doing, I want to do. I asked you the question once because you deal with a lot of people, and I'm going to use a word that is a clinical word, who are crazy, right? By the time they get to you, they're crazy.
I was crazy too.
Okay, so you understand it. And they're crazy because they're being affected by things that, to the common person, cannot be so. In other words, somebody says, every time I go near my refrigerator, my head feels like it's melting. They fall into the category of a whack job, right?
Yep.
This is a crazy person.
Your body's telling us.
But I really think it's kind of the old canary in the coal mine thing. If it's affecting people whose bucket has overflowed at that level, then it must be affecting you, you know, and everybody else at smaller level. So it's still putting stuff in their bucket.
Canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, so all of these things, I think when we look at these people who are crazy, where we once were, it's not so much that they're crazy, it's the world doesn't understand that. That's what happens. They become isolated. They feel very alone because nobody quite gets it. But can you imagine that feeling, trying to tell somebody, you have to unscrew that light bulb. It's affecting you. Oh, my God, you got to be committed, right? But really, this is an extreme of what I think everybody is experiencing.
Well, that's the point I think we're making is we're in a different world today. You know, we have things that are affecting our body's inability or ability to adapt, right? So imagine this. Imagine if we had a world of doctors. Every doctor was trained from school that when somebody comes into their office, they would say, you're not adapting. Let's figure out what's in your life that's keeping you from adapting. Because ultimately, that's the solution for you feeling better. How can we get your body to adapt at a higher level? What can we remove from your body to empty that bucket so your body, in fact, does adapt? Isn't that everything? I mean, isn't that what a good trainer does? It's like, if we can get you to adapt there, we can get you stronger and better. Well, when I have a client who's very sick, you know, I look at that person, something's keeping their innate intelligence, that something that God put in their body from healing. Really what that means is they're not adapting. So we change their lifestyle. We detox them at the cellular level. Ultimately, it does boil down to what's happening in the cell, but ultimately, it's just simply, you know, taking the stressors out of their life.
When you talk about adaptation, there's another piece of this. We don't want adaptation. We recognize. So we bring about change because there's adaptation. But once somebody adapts, the change stops. In other words, that stimulus is no longer bringing about change. So when somebody has to go through something difficult, the detox, the first time they do it, it is difficult. It is perceived as a stress, but it is the necessary stress that allows them to move to the next level of adaptation. And I think when practitioners and trainers and doctors start to understand that, patient care becomes very different than it is today.
So, I mean, it's safe to say that there's no way to avoid all stress. I mean, it's whether you're adapting and getting stronger.
Yeah.
Or
I think people
adapt,
have to be open to, the patient has to be open to the idea that this will be hard.
Right.
What we're going to ask you to do is going to be hard. Taking the pill is easy.
Right.
Right? Taking 17 is a little harder because you have to swallow 17 pills, but it's much easier than what Dr. Pompa is going to ask you to do. We don't want easy. We want the stress that's going to bring positive adaptation, and we want to improve you beyond that.
Positive adaptation. Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that people look at exercise it's a stress, folks. I mean, you're literally, when you're exercising, you're creating a stress. Now, that could be very negative. A lot of my clients, they can't exercise because it's a stress they don't adapt to. So it makes them more sick. It makes them feel worse. So therefore, something that helps many people becomes a negative. So I know when I was sick, some people said, "Oh, just pick up your bootstraps and exercise more." And now I've got people's attention because there's a lot of guilt, of saying, "Gosh, I know that my husband or my wife, when they exercise, they have more energy. So if I just exercise more, and they exercise more, and then the next day they're worse, they feel more tired. They feel what's happening is you're not adapting to a stress. It makes somebody else stronger because they're adapting." So I think we can look at that as anything. We're never going to get rid of all the chemicals in our life. But see, when you empty your stress bucket, now you're adapting to those chemicals. And therefore, you can live life. Not that, again, I mean, too much of anything like that, too much of any stress is going to send your bucket overflowing. But the key is adaptation.
This is kind of the miracle of a child taking on a bacterial illness and the immune system developing to fight it.
That's right.
It is the stressor and then an adaptation that actually makes them stronger. But if the stressor becomes overwhelming or they can't recover, then you start to get negative adaptation. Things start to move in the wrong direction.
Well, it's the whole negative of helicopter parents. Sorry, moms and dads that are out there that are helicopter parents, but it's true. If you're trying to take away every stress from your child, you're going to do your child a disservice, because now all of a sudden when there's an unavoidable stress, they don't know how to react. They don't know how to adapt. Our immune systems are the same way. If we're running around using every antibacterial thing, we're actually killing off defenses that our body puts up.
It's true.
To adapt, right? That's an adaptation that our body forms these bacteria, and we're good with our environment. And therefore, if we kill that, now we've just killed our body's natural adaptation, because we think we're going to beat the germ. We think we're going to beat the stress. We're not. Bad philosophy. Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot here. I mean, this is a great subject. I think it is a great subject. People are sick today. I believe we're at the root of why people aren't getting well today. I believe we're at the root of why people are just going down even the road in alternative world not getting well today.
I'm going to tell you another root that you guys are chopping off right now by doing your show. Bad advice. When people say, just exercise, you'll feel better. You just explained how in many cases that could be the wrong thing to do. One of the most frequently heard expressions I hear related to nutrition, everything in moderation.
Yeah. Oh, I hate that.
Which means diet soda in moderation.
Yeah.
Everything that you're talking
moderation to you is different from moderation to me.
That's the worst advice.
Yes, it is.
Eat things that are really bad for you, but just a little. Yeah. That's moderation. So I think that people are kind of, remember Lucy and Charlie Brown had the little advice, stand the doctor is in. That's people. They're playing amateur psychologists. They go, oh yeah, just stop eating carbs. Oh yeah, just eat everything in moderation. Oh, this is okay, but you have to limit. But see, they're not experts, and I think there's this idea that everybody knows. But what's interesting is if you look at the everybody, they're suffering as much as the person they're giving advice to.
But when comments like that are made, they trigger something in all of us that sounds so, yeah, they're right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it sounds so logical.
Don't complicate your
life.
Right,
it sounds so logical. Yeah, because we've all heard that before. Yeah, moderate. Yeah, you're right. And then it almost gives you a license then to go back to the same moderation that got you sick, by the way. It's because what moderation is what you're doing every day, day in, day out.
Right. So here's my little bit of aspartame. Here's my little bit of crystal meth. I'm just going to do everything in moderation.
A little bit of arsenic, a little bit of
some vegetables. A little bit of vegetables. So there's balance, yes.
It's easier to get people to eat a little bit of vegetables or take that little green juice powder and go, I'm doing healthy things, right? Than really look at their entire life. So they would rather add something to an unhealthy life. you know, and say, I'm really doing well because I'm drinking juice now, right? I'm, you know,
Right.
when people get around me, they immediately start saying these things that they've added. I'm drinking raw juice. I'm juicing now. Well, are you still drinking your soda or still drinking your white bread? Yeah, of course, but I'm juicing now. So
you might think this is weird, and we do got to wrap up because it's a 40-minute show today. When I've looked at probably like 20 houses, I'm looking for a new home potentially, and what I do, I'm looking in the cupboard for cupboard space, but I'm taking mental pictures of what's in their cupboards because this is, you know, I'm able to sample and get into the homes of 20 people. You might call that weird, but I'm really looking to see what. Not me. You look on my cupboard, it's way different. Dr. Pompa's, on past show, you went into his cupboard, but I notice of what they have. And what I do see is the Costco fish oil, you know, the multivitamin, and maybe a green drink, and then I won't promote them, a Ninja or a Bullet or, you know, something like that, you know. And so I know that these people are trying to be healthy. And then sometimes I notice medications, most times. You know, and that's not because I'm looking for it. I'm looking for cupboard space. But that's America. You know, they're on a couple medications, and they're trying to do their fish oil. You know, they're exercising. They have a workout. Usually, I see a big, you know, workout ball or, you know, some, you know, dumbbells that they're probably not using. But that's what I see: fish oil, a greens drink, a Magic Bullet, and
a workout device in the corner.
A workout device in the corner, or some sort of thing they bought on TV, and that's it. You know, and I look at pictures, you know, not that I'm judging, they're beautiful people, but they're all overweight or inflamed looking. You know, they might not, you wouldn't look at them and say, hey, you're overweight. You'd be like, but for me, I'm like, you're skinny fat or you're inflamed. This person isn't healthy. And I don't say that from an arrogant standpoint. It breaks my heart because these people are doing the wrong things because they're taking the moderate advice.
Have you heard doctors, mainstream doctors, MDs, say all the patient wants is the medication? They don't want to take responsibility. Have you heard that?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so
and that frustrates the doctor at times.
Yeah, it frustrates the doctor because the person comes in asking for the medication that either their friend told them, there's the bad advice, or a TV commercial told them. So they're just following orders. They're just coming in asking for the medication. There's an example of bad advice. The people you're talking about, they're trying. This has nothing to do with the person being lazy.
No, not at all.
This has everything to do with wrong information, misinformation, and disinformation. So when you come along, these are the people who need rescue. You know, and the rescue comes from the right information. The question is, where do they get it?
You know, and you can leave on this note right here because when Warren went through those things, all of them are 180-degree principles, meaning that the funny thing is that the truth is exact opposite, right? I mean, on all those things, I mean, even down to the fish oil that they think is helping them is actually hurting them. You know, what got you here? The answer always lies 180 degrees the opposite direction. You know? And that's it. I mean, honestly, if we really evaluated how someone got there in their life, not happy with certain things, the answer is opposite. When everyone's making a right, make a left. There your answer lies. That's it. All right. That's our principle, man.
Cellular
180 degrees opposite.
Cellular Healing TV. Great episode. Thanks for joining us, Phil.
Yep.
Jumping in here. I love it. Share it with your friends. We share truth. CellularHealing.tv. Share us and like us on iTunes as well now. Have a great rest of your day and weekend.
The article, real fast, the Michael J. Fox article, is it up on the site too?
Yeah, if you went to drpompa.com, you could go underneath articles, but it should also be that front banner that shows up and make it really easy. It's and it took me probably 5 seconds, and I'll save you the time from figuring out, but the lettering looks like Back to the Future. They use that lettering, and I'm like, oh yes, Michael J. Fox. Back to the Future, great show. I'm from the '80s, so watch Michael J. Fox this weekend. Watch some Back to the Future, and think about
the article.
You know what led up to his demise, and do the 180-degree opposite. Don't drink diet soda, guys. Get your life back. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Share with your friends.